from a coroner, straight from the coroner who's involved in the Elena Moore case. Now, if you have been following this case, Elena Moore is a 39-year-old woman who disappeared in Lexington, South Carolina, over a week ago. So June 11th was the last time Elena was seen. And things started to get very strange after that. Videos popping up, unusual behavior, disoriented, all the rest. And in fact, I did an episode just yesterday with all of the details of her disappearance and the Ring camera video that surfaced and the people who encountered her and had such an unusual just repartee with her right before she vanished. And that's linked in the description, so I highly recommend you check that out. It's quick and you can get up to speed on the case.
The last person you would expect to protect a murder suspect is the police. But what if the suspect used to be one of them? That question has been eating at me since the day Elena Moore's body was found. Here is what I could not say when I last updated you on this case, because I did not have the full picture. I knew Elena had vanished. I knew her husband was a former sheriff's deputy turned private investigator. I knew the coroner had looked at the body and could not tell what killed her. But I did not yet understand why the one person who should have been the first target of the investigation was cleared so fast that it felt like he was never a target at all. I now believe I understand it, and I believe you will too. Let me take you back to June 11th. Elena Moore, 39 years old, walks into a Planet Fitness in Lexington, South Carolina just after 6 at night. She is not a member there. She works at a different gym. She signs in anyway. She talks to the front desk. She leaves. And then she is gone. Her husband Brandon Slice waits until the next day to report her missing. He tells police she was last seen at a CVS. That turns out to be false. Police have to retract it. Then they say she has been found. That too is false. They retract it again. Already the ground is shifting under the official story. And at the center of that shifting ground is a man who spent 14 years wearing a badge in the very county where his wife disappeared.
Whenever someone is missing and the circumstances are unusual, the family members are instantly the very first people you look at, right? They're the very first people who are investigated. So I would find it very strange that the police would say to a husband, in guidance, we recommend that you don't speak to the press. I don't think that they would give guidance to a family member, a husband, in a suspicious disappearance of a woman. Maybe I'm wrong, but he is former law enforcement.
Brandon Slice worked for the Lexington County Sheriff's Department. He is now a private investigator. He knows how investigations work. He knows how evidence is collected and how statements are taken and how the first 48 hours of a missing person case determine whether that person is found alive. So when he reported his wife missing an entire day after she was last seen, that was not a detail I could file away and forget. It was a signal, a behavioral indicator. That term means an observable action that is statistically inconsistent with how an innocent person behaves in a given situation. An innocent husband whose wife is vulnerable, just released from a mental health facility, behaving erratically on doorbell cameras, does not wait 24 hours to pick up the phone. He calls immediately. Every hour matters. He knows that better than anyone because he spent a career in law enforcement. He knows it and he waited anyway. Then something even stranger happened. When the media reached out to Brandon Slice for comment about his missing wife, he told them the police advised him not to speak. Not his lawyer. The police. I have been covering crime for decades, and I have never once heard police tell a husband to stay silent while his wife is missing. I have seen them hold press conferences with families. I have seen them plead with the public for tips. Silence does not bring a missing woman home. So I reached out to someone who knows this world better than almost anyone. Sergeant Vicky Reigns of the Richland County Sheriff's Department.
Different things on the ground. And from a very, very trusted source. If you know Sergeant Vicky Reigns, you know she knows this business inside and out. And I say that because Vicky Reigns is one of the stars of the hit Netflix series Missing, Dead or Alive. It's a true crime docuseries that follows investigators with the Richland County Sheriff's Department Missing Persons Unit. And if you've seen the show, you know that that's why I would have called her, right, for her expertise.
She is one of the stars of the Netflix series Missing, Dead or Alive. She has worked these cases from the inside. She is a stone's throw from Lexington.
But there's even more to Vicky Reigns. Sergeant Vicky Reigns in Richland County is a stone's throw from Lexington. So she's connected to a lot of people in that community. And Vicky Reigns says that that description from Elena's husband, that the police told me not to comment and maybe later I will, it doesn't pass muster. She says the only person who would say something like that to the police or have a communication would be his lawyer. And the lawyer would say, I'm not commenting. It wouldn't be the other way around with the police telling him not to comment, if that makes sense.
And when I asked her whether police would ever tell a husband not to talk, she was unequivocal. No. The only person who would say that, she told me, is a lawyer. Which means the man who should have been on camera begging for help finding his wife was instead hiding behind a claim that placed the blame on law enforcement itself. That is not how an innocent person behaves. That is how someone who has been around investigations long enough to know how to shape a narrative behaves. Now let me steel man the other side because I always want to be fair. It is possible that Brandon Slice had a verifiable alibi for the time Elena was last seen. He may have checked into a location that required identification. He may have been on video somewhere far from the Planet Fitness and the woods where the body was eventually found. An alibi would explain why police cleared him so quickly. But here is what an alibi does not explain. It does not explain why he gave police a false location for her disappearance, sending them to a CVS she was never at. It does not explain why friends of Elena have told multiple sources that she was trying to leave him, that the marriage was strained, that she had detailed issues with him before she entered the mental health facility.
In all of the work that I've done, and it's a lot, after 4 decades of doing this work, it is invariable that when a woman goes missing, the first people that police have to look at very, very seriously is family, including husbands and parents, brothers and sisters, etc.
It does not explain the rumors that when she got out of that facility, she did not go back to his home.
Yes, they had... So some people reached out to me to ask, like they had information about this case or information about her, and they would reach out and ask, hey, do you know about this? And give me information about things. Some of them would be her friends, and they would say, did you know? And they would just provide information that was, something they would say like, they don't really get along. And then she was in this mental institution, this mental facility. And then some people said that when she got out of the facility, she did not go back to his home. And then some people wasn't sure if she did or didn't. So, you hear all kinds of stories. You just have to vet all of those stories and what is true. You have to find out if she wasn't staying at home, who was she staying with, and, verify everything someone is telling you.
Well, and then there's the issue of her last being seen on June 11th, but not being reported missing till June 12th by her husband. If they're not living together, that would make perfect sense. If they are living together, you'd think late at night on June 11th, you want to know why you can't reach your wife and why she hasn't walked through the door.
Right. Yeah. That was a concern of her friends was like, is it normal to wait to not report someone missing? And I said, well, if you know they're missing, the sooner the better. We always urge everyone, as soon as you know, let us know. The faster we can find them, the more chances there are of saving them. Usually that 24-hour period in the beginning is the most crucial time.
And it certainly does not explain the most dangerous possibility of all, one that Vicky Reigns raised immediately when we spoke. Proxy crimes exist. A person with a perfect alibi can still orchestrate harm through someone else. Police know this. They do not rule a spouse out until every avenue is exhausted, unless that spouse used to be one of them. Here is the moment I want you to look at. I want you to compare two things and tell me what you see. The Lexington Police Department cleared Brandon Slice as a person of interest before a body was even found. Before an autopsy, before toxicology, before a cause of death.
Well, that happened real fast, and I could not quite compute the lightning speed, with which he was dispensed as anybody who was a person of interest. It happened even before they found a body. And again, they found a body. So far, they haven't said it's Elena. It seems like it might be. The clothing matches, etc.
Right.
But it seemed very, very quick to say that the husband is not a person of interest. Did it seem quick to you?
I would say I would probably wait till the autopsy was back and get some more concrete results of, get the toxicology back and things like that.
Well,
But
I mean,
if
Vicky
they have found
hadn't even
out
been
other,
found yet, right? Like they ruled him out before a body had even been found. She was still missing, and they've ruled him out as a person of interest. That's why I was a little surprised at the timing.
That timeline is not normal. I have spoken with investigators across this country. Not one of them has ever said it is standard procedure to rule out a husband while his wife is still missing and the circumstances are this strange. So I am asking you directly. You are the armchair investigators who catch the details that official reports miss. Look at the CVS misdirection. Look at the 24-hour delay. Look at the police advising silence when they should have been amplifying the search. Does that pattern add up to a grieving husband receiving standard treatment, or does it add up to a former cop receiving protection that no other husband would get? Now here is what we know about the body. The coroner, Margaret Fisher, told me personally that from her experience perspective she could not see anything obvious. No bullet holes, no stab wounds, no blunt force trauma, nothing that would scream homicide at first glance. But we have to account for the conditions. 6 days in 90-degree South Carolina heat.
So she's last seen on June 11th. She's reported missing June 12th. And on June 17th, a body is found. In South Carolina, and you'll have to attest to this, you live right there in that vicinity. It's hot. The weather has likely been quite hot for a week.
yes.
Body has been there for the better part of a week. What condition, and not to be too macabre about it, but what condition would that body be in?
It has been very hot. It's extremely humid here as well. So if a body was in the woods for 4 or 5 days or whatever the number of days was in that type of heat, and then it has also rained some, but it's very hot and humid, it would start, a decomposition.
Extreme humidity, animal activity, advanced decomposition can obscure bruising.
It's interesting that the police chief who gave the news conference yesterday was so reticent and just not willing to give any detail at all about the condition of this person, whether it was likely to be her. He said it was her clothing, but the coroner was very informative. And I was very interested in the brief repartee that I had with the coroner. Let me read what Margaret Fisher said, and I'd love to get your take on this, just as an investigator.
Okay.
She said, I asked if this, and this was a written Q&A that went back and forth. I asked if, in her opinion, foul play might be at afoot here. And she said the autopsy is scheduled for Saturday. They don't have a cause of death. They should have the positive ID for Saturday. Then she said, I'm not sure if foul play is suspected, as that would be a law enforcement question. At this point, and from my experienced perspective, I could not tell. Nothing obvious at that point. What does that tell you?
It can obscure the signs of strangulation. During an autopsy, however, the hyoid bone can still tell the story. That small bone in the neck often fractures during manual strangulation, and it does not heal. It does not decompose. It stays broken even when the soft tissue is gone.
So if anytime a coroner has said that to me in the past, I would take that to mean there's no outward signs, there's no stab wounds, there's no bullet holes, there's no blunt force trauma, anything like that. They will probably wait till toxicology comes back to see what's in her system and things like that. Wait for that type of stuff to get back. If she is saying that by her physically looking at her, she can't see any signs that would have caused this to happen, then I would take it that she means there's no outward signs of
Yeah,
injury.
that's what I thought as well. But then I was wondering about strangulation. That's usually obvious, unless someone's in an advanced stage of decomposition, which was why I asked about the weather. Can you sort of put those metrics together? A week, 6 days out and 90 degrees with humid conditions and animal activity potentially. And would you be able to tell as a coroner if strangulation was the manner of death?
It depends, like you said, on the level of decomposition and things like that, or what condition the body was in, maybe, if it was fully intact or not, or something like that. But during the autopsy, a lot of times in a strangulation, the bone will be broken and you'll be able to tell that it was strangulation, even if there is decomposition on the outside, but that would happened during the autopsy.
That's the hyoid bone, right? But you
Correct.
wouldn't be able to know that during the autopsy. You wouldn't be able to see it just from your initial,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
The autopsy is scheduled. Toxicology is pending. The science does not care about who someone used to be. The science only cares about what was done to Elena Moore. The case has now been handed over to SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. That could be a routine resource decision.
I do want to ask you about the notion that the Lexington police is handing it over to SLED, to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Is that normal? Is that just standard par for the course, or do they suspect something odd, and that's why SLED now has to take charge?
I don't know why they handed it over to SLED. That does happen from time to time, depending on the agency. So I mean that does happen. I don't know what their reason is for handing it over, but um, if there's some kind of conflict or they feel SLED can do something, they can hand it over where a state agency takes it versus a city or county agency if they decide to hand it over to SLED.
So we shouldn't read anything into it, or should we?
I don't know what the reason is why they handed it over. Lexington, the city of Lexington is who was originally working the case. And I know that they have decided to hand it over to SLED versus city or county working it. So I don't know what the reason for that is. It could be various reasons, so I don't really want to speculate. A lot of different things can cause that. We at Richland County, we worked our own, so I don't know, why Lexington. I don't know why they handed it over. I'm not sure.
Might even be so much as like an asset issue, law
Yeah, it
enforcement.
could be something like that. It could be something to do with resources or something like that.
Sure. Is there one question that is nagging when you look at the facts of this case as you've been able to determine them?
Um, it is a little confusing that, I mean, for me, I would be like, okay, she had these mental health issues going on where she was disoriented and people were reporting her behavior to be bizarre. I think maybe if that was made aware to the public or something, maybe people could have called in versus just thinking she looks like, a normal person just walking around unless you are speaking with her, you know her, you may not know that this is going on.
Or it could be a recognition that local agencies may have conflicts they cannot navigate. We do not know yet. What we do know is that the evidence has been collected, the chain of custody is intact, the forensic tools exist, the toxicology will take weeks but it will come back, and when it does, the truth will be chemically and biologically undeniable. Elena Moore was 39 years old. She was someone's daughter. She had friends who said she was trying to leave a difficult situation. She was seen on a Ring camera a week before she vanished, disoriented, picking up someone else's DoorDash order and trying to walk into a stranger's home.
I wanted to ask you about the very unusual doorbell cam video. You know, um, a week before she went missing, she's a half mile away from the Planet Fitness, and she's on a doorbell cam messing with someone's DoorDash order. And the homeowners aren't aware that Elena is a person who's maybe in distress. They think it's the DoorDash driver, and the DoorDash driver doesn't think there's an issue because the DoorDash driver thinks it's the homeowner. So it was a very strange confluence of circumstances, but nonetheless, the homeowner got a beat on all of it. That Elena picked up her DoorDash and tried to walk into their home with it, and they had to tell her no. And then later, about an hour later, saw her rifling through packages of their neighbor. That is all very distressing information at a time when she's a week from vanishing.
Right. Yes. It is. And one of her friends said that when the neighbors said, hey, what are you doing? She was kind of like, well, I don't know, and was maybe like a little confused or something. So that is very concerning. And then what her conversation would have been with the people at Planet Fitness that morning, because that isn't the gym that she regularly goes to. She works at a different gym. So whatever her conversation would have been with them, I'm sure the police have gotten that, but whatever that would be very telling as well. It would be, why was she there and what was she telling them?
Yeah, I mean, she clearly looked like she was engaged with the front desk and having a conversation of
Right.
some kind, if it could be a fly on the wall for that, because I
Right.
believe that may be the last known interaction that she had, at least that we know of at this point. She may very well have had other interactions.
She was vulnerable, and the person who should have been her protector waited a day to report her missing, gave police a wrong location, and then claimed the police told him to stay silent while the world searched for her. I am not telling you what to conclude. I am telling you that the evidence is forming a shape, and that shape is one I have seen before.
Nowhere near her at the time. If he had checked in, somewhere where he had to use his ID or something.
But I always smell a rat anyway, just because I've been at this game too long, and I've
Right.
I've seen proxy crimes being committed. So
A-
somebody has a perfect alibi, but they've actually orchestrated someone else to commit a crime.
Absolutely.
And until you go down all those avenues, police aren't usually quick to rule people out. It just seemed in this case
Right.
that
I agree. I feel the same way. Any of these cases that I've worked, I haven't ruled people out until I had everything back and everything in order. And, you're going to check every area. And like you said, you never know. You never know if it's by proxy or something. So I wouldn't have probably ruled him out, but I don't know, what evidence they have or what their reason was for that.
I will be here when the autopsy results are released. I will be here when the toxicology comes back. I will be here when the truth about what happened in those woods finally surfaces. You have my word on that. If you know something, if you saw something, if a detail has been bothering you the way these details have been bothering me, you can reach us at dropdeadseriousinfo@gmail.com. You can remain anonymous. We will pass information to the authorities, because this investigation is not over. It is just beginning. Truth is not just serious, it is drop dead serious.